And we are back with part 4 of this week's Bible study for Waymaker Messianic Jewish and Christian Center USA. We are reading from the Messianic Jewish Family Bible, Tree of Life Version, TLV, and we are doing the entire book of Daniel this week. Chapter 10. And this one deals with King Cyrus, angelic princes, battle for 21 days. In the 3rd year of King Cyrus of Persia, a message was revealed to Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar. The oracle was true and concerns a great war. He understood the message and gained insight through a vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 whole weeks. I ate no rich food, nor did meat or wine enter my mouth, nor did I anoint myself with oil until the end of 3 weeks. Now, on the 24th day of the first month, while I was beside the bank of the great river, the Tigris, I lifted my eyes and looked, and behold, a man dressed in linen, with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like yellow jasper, his face like a flash of lightning, his eyes like fiery torches, his arm and his feet like the gleam of burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the roar of a multitude. Only I, Daniel, saw the vision. The men that were with me did not see the vision. Nevertheless, such a great terror fell upon them that they fled and hid themselves. So I was left alone to see this great vision. My strength drained from me, and my vigor was destroyed. I could not summon any strength. Yet I heard the sound of his words. When I heard him speaking, I fell on my face in a deep sleep with my face to the ground. Then behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. He said to me, Daniel, highly valued man, carefully consider the words I am speaking to you. Stand up, for now I have been sent to you. When he spoke this word to me, I stood up trembling. Then he said to me, don't be afraid, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before God, before your God, your words were heard. And I have come because of your words. However, the prince of the kingdom of Persia resisted me for 21 days, but behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me because I had been detained there with the kings of Persia. Now I have come to explain to you what will happen to your people in the future days, for the vision concerns days yet to come. While he was speaking these words to me, I bowed my face toward the ground and was speechless. Then behold, one who resembled a human touched my lips. I opened my mouth and spoke and said to him that stood before me, O my Lord, because of the vision, anguish has overcome me, and I have no strength. For how can this servant of my Lord speak with my Lord, since no strength remains in me, and no spirit is left in me? Again, the one who looked like a man touched me and strengthened me. Then he said, highly valued man, do not fear. Shalom to you. Be strong now. Chizak. Even as he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, do you understand why I have come to you? Now I must return to fight against the prince of Persia. Now that's a principality, a demonic principality, a stronghold, from the devil. When I go, behold, the prince of Greece will come. But first I will tell you what is recorded in the writing of truth. No one strengthened me against these, except Michael, your prince. Chapter 11. And in the first year of Darius the Mede, I took my stand to support and protect him, kings of the south and the north. Now I will declare the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia. Then a fourth will be far richer than all. When he becomes powerful through his wealth, he will stir up everyone against the realm of Greece. Then a mighty king will arise who will rule with great authority and do as he pleases. But as soon as he has arisen, his kingdom will be broken up and distributed to the 4 winds of heaven, though it will not go to his descendants, nor will it have the authority, he exercised, for his kingdoms will be uprooted and given to others besides these. Then the king of the south will become strong, but one of his commanders will become even stronger than he, and he will rule a greater kingdom than his. After some years, they will form an alliance. The daughter of the king of the south will approach the king of the north to make an agreement, but she will not retain her position of power, nor will his strength endure. Instead, she will be given up together with her escort, her father, and the one who supported her in those times. But another shoot from her roots will arise in his place. He will come against the army of the king of the north and enter his fortress. He will fight against them and prevail. He will also carry off their gods into captivity to Egypt, along with their metal images and their precious articles of silver and gold. For a few years he will stay away from the king of the north. Then the king of the north will invade the realm of the king of the south, but he will retreat to his own land. His sons will prepare for war and assemble a great army, which will advance and overflow and sweep through like a flood and carry the battle as far as his fortress. Then the king of the south, enraged, will march out and fight against the king of the north, who will also muster a massive army. But the army will be defeated, but when the army is carried off, the heart of the king of the south will become arrogant and will slaughter thousands and thousands, yet he will not prevail. The king of the north will raise up another army, one greater than the first. After an interval of some years, he will advance with a great army and with abundant supplies. In those times many will rise up against the king of the south. The lawless sons among your own people will raise themselves up in order to confirm the vision, but they will stumble. Then the king of the north will come, build a siege ramp, and capture a well-fortified city. The forces of the south will not prevail, not even their select troops will have strength to prevail. But the invader will do as he pleases, and no one will be able to stand against him. He will take his stand in the beautiful land and its devastation in his hand. His intention will be to come with the strength of his entire kingdom, but he will reach an agreement with him. He will give him a daughter in marriage in order to destroy the kingdom, but his plans will not succeed or help him. Then he will turn his attention to the coastland and capture many, but a commander will put an end to his insolence and pay him back for his insolence. He will then turn his face toward the strongholds of his own land, but he will stumble and fall not to be found again. In his place will arise one who will dispatch a tax collector to extract tribute for royal glory, but within a few days he will be destroyed, though not in anger or battle. Then in his place will arise a despicable person on whom royal honor has not been conferred. He will come in a time of tranquility and seize the kingdom through intrigue. Armies will be utterly swept away from before him and will be broken as well as the leader of the covenant. After an alliance is made with him, he will act deceitfully. He will rise to power with a small force. Without warning, he will invade the richest province and accomplish what his fathers or predecessors were unable to do. He will lavish on them plunder, loot, and spoils. He will plot the overthrow of strongholds, though only for a while. He will summon his strength and courage against the king of the south. With a great army, the king of the south will wage war with a very large and mighty army, but he will not succeed because of the plots devised against him. Those who eat his delicacies will destroy him, and his army will be swept away. Many will be slain in battle. These two kings, with their hearts bent on evil, will sit at the same table and speak lies, but to no avail, for the end will still come at the appointed time. The king of the north will return to his own land and with great wealth, but his heart will be set against the holy covenant. He will take action and then return to his own land. At the appointed time, he will invade the south again, only this time the outcome will not be as before. The ships of Kittim will come against him, and he will lose heart. Then he will turn back and vent his rage against the holy covenant. When he returns, he will favor those who forsake the holy covenant. His forces will rise up and profane the fortified temple. They will stop the daily offering and set up the abomination of desolation. With smooth words he will seduce those who act wickedly against covenant, but the people who know their God will stand strong and prevail. Those who are wise among the people will instruct many, though for many days they will fall by the sword or be burned, captured, or pillaged. When they stumble, they will receive a little help, but many will join them deceitfully. Even some of the wise will stumble, so that they may be refined, purified, and made spotless until the time of the end, for it will still come at the appointed time. So, in other words, the end will come when the time is appointed, that God appointed. An ungodly king exalts himself, so the king will do as he pleases, exalting and magnifying himself above every god. He will even speak outrageous things against the God of gods. He will prosper until the time of wrath is completed, for what has been decided will be done. He will show no regard for the gods of his fathers, or the one desired by women, nor will he show regard for any god, but he will exalt himself above all. Instead of these, he will honor a god of fortress, a god that his fathers did not acknowledge. He will honor these gold, silver, precious stones, and costly things. He will attack strong fortresses with the help of a foreign god and will greatly honor those who acknowledge him. He will give them authority over many and will parcel out land for a price. Now, at the time of the end, the king of the south will attack him, and the king of the north will storm out against him with chariots, horsemen, and many ships. He will invade lands and pass through them like an overflowing river. He will also invade the beautiful land. Many will be overthrown, but these will escape from his hand: Edom, Moab, and the chief of the sons of Ammon. He will extend his hand against other countries. The land of Egypt will not escape. He will gain control over the hidden treasures of gold and silver, as well as all of the riches of Egypt. The Libyans and the Cushites will also be under his feet. But reports from the east and north will alarm him, and he will set out in a great rage to destroy and annihilate many. He will pitch his royal tents between the seas and the beautiful holy mountain, yet he will meet his doom with no one to help him. In the final chapter of Daniel, Resurrection and Judgment, at that time Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise. There will be a time of distress such as has never occurred since the beginning of the nation until then. At that time your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be delivered. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, and others to shame and everlasting contempt. We're talking this runs parallel. This is a parallel to Revelation. Absolutely. Those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavenly expanse, and those who turn many to righteousness will be like the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, close up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many will run back and forth, and knowledge will increase. The final outcome. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, two others stood there, one on this bank of the river and the one on the other bank of the river. One said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, how long until the end of the world, to the end of the wondrous things? Sorry. How long until the end of the wondrous things? Then I heard the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, as he raised both his right and left hands towards heaven, and swore an oath by him who lives forever, saying, it is for times and a half. Then when the breaking of the power of the holy people comes to an end, all these things will be finished. Now I heard, but I did not understand, so I said, my Lord, what will be the outcome of these things? Then he said, go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed until the time of the end. Many will be purified, made spotless, and refined, but the wicked will act wickedly. None of the wicked will understand, but the wise will understand. From the time that the daily burnt offering is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1290 days. Happy is the one who keeps waiting and reaches the, the 1335 days. But you go your way till the end. You will rest And then at the end of days, you will arise to receive your portion. So, in other words, he's telling him, Daniel, it's not in your time. You will rest. You will, you will be sleeping, and you will rise. In other words, he will die and be resurrected at the time of the very time of the resurrection. And that is the end of the book of Daniel. So, just a quick recapping of the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel was written, of course, by the prophet Daniel in the late 6th century BC. And the central message is the rise and fall of kingdoms, and God controls the destiny of all nations. So we know Daniel was from Judea. He was from the Judean exile at the court of Babylon. He was deported as a teenager in 605 BC, about 8 years before Ezekiel and the first exiles were taken captive. And he lived in Babylon for 60 years, as we mentioned at the very beginning. Daniel belonged to the royal family and was exceptionally able, intelligent, and skillful in wisdom. Also taken into captivity was Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who were later named Babylonian names Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the portion of the royal family into Babylon had been prophesied by Isaiah to King Hezekiah. And he said in Isaiah 37, I'm sorry, chapter 39, verse 7, and of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget. Now this is from King James. Shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. So along with thousands of captives, they were taken to Babylon, and the treasures of Solomon's palace also went with. So all like musicians, the really skillful people, the very intelligent were taken to Babylon. The skilled, the educated, the men of valor um, were taken from Jerusalem early in the war. And the Babylonians subdued all of the provinces ruled by Assyria. They consolidated their empire into an area that covered much of the Middle East. In order to govern such a diversified kingdom over such an expanse um, of space, they needed manpower also and people that possessed skills. And they instructed these four. Well, they instructed a whole group of people, and they fed them certain foods. Um, and actually, as we see what happened, the four Hebrew boys decided they were not going to defile themselves with the food from the Babylonian kingdom, and they did not. And they actually were fine and actually thrived and found favor in the kingdom. So Daniel is important as a prophet as well for the future. And he also, Yeshua mentioned him when he talked about the apocalypse coming, as Daniel, the prophet Daniel, um, mentioned the abomination of desolation when he was addressing the disciples who were asking, when is the end coming? And it was Yeshua who actually referred back to Daniel. Daniel quickly excelled in wisdom in Babylon. When he was taken, he was elevated to one of the three highest positions in the kingdom. And even when he was thrown into the den of man eating lions, he survived because God's hand was mighty upon him. And he was faithful and true to God. Um, absolutely. Daniel, witnessed the horrific humiliation of King Nebuchadnezzar and also uh, actually prophesied to his son, who actually was um, very did not revere God and actually was kind of mocking because the vessels that came from the temple he was defiling by drinking and partying, with. So he kind of let him know that, God is angry with you, and your kingdom has been, um, it's done, it's over, and you've been weighed, um, your ways have been weighed in the balances, and your life is ending today, as we read. And we see here there was a lot that happened, and so we're quickly recapping. We see the story of the three Hebrew boys that were thrown into the burning furnace that was set 7 times higher than what it normally was, and their belief and their standing firm to not bowing down to any other god but the one true and living God, actually, delivered them from this, and they saw a fourth man in the fire with them, and it was Yeshua. So they were spared. A miracle was actually seen. Nebuchadnezzar then was able to say, hey, this is the one true God. And he actually, gave uh, glory to the one true God. But as we know, Nebuchadnezzar actually became prideful, and God kind of put him down quite a few pegs for quite a while. He lost his kingdom, was like a ravenous animal, living among the animals, eating grass, and until um, he actually repented. That's the long and short of that. So we have Daniel 1 through 6. The first 6 chapters are history, and the last 6 chapters are actually prophecy. And as I mentioned, understanding the book of Daniel actually gives insight to when we get into the book of Revelation, because they both parallel. Both Daniel and John, who wrote Revelation, were loved by the Lord, and they saw visions that God gave them. Daniel received his visions while he was a captive in Babylon, and John received his vision while he was a captive on the island of Patmos. Um, and on 5 different occasions in Revelation, we read that the book is a prophecy. So John was also a prophet in this sense, as well as an apostle and an evangelist. And Yeshua referred to Daniel as a prophet as well. Um, so and again, we talk about Nebuchadnezzar's dream when Daniel was brought into the picture in the first place. He could have actually lost his life had the Lord not given him that dream and the interpretation, because the others were all set. The magicians and the Chaldeans and the sorcerers and all those that Nebuchadnezzar called could not do it, and they were about to lose their life. The first dream was Nebuchadnezzar's, powerful kingdom. The second dream was actually Nebuchadnezzar being thrust out of his kingdom and having to live like a wild animal. And again, we talked about the golden image that the three Hebrew boys would not bow down to. Um, and then we go on to Nebuchadnezzar, who, when he regained his sanity, he praised the God of heaven, Daniel's God. Then the handwriting on the wall was Nebuchadnezzar's son, Belshazzar, who did lose his life because of foolishness. He was a foolish king. And we have Darius, um, who Darius loved Daniel, and there were these supervisors there that just plotted against Daniel, and he got thrown into the lion's den. Again, the miracles of God were shown, and Darius proclaimed God to be God. So then we go into the prophetic, which we have just read. And that's kind of a quick recapping. I'm going to come back. I'm going to pause this here. We're going to come back with an altar call, and then we're going to close it out for this week. And next week, we'll be reading the book of Ezra.